This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, so we are on Shar Bet, the second part, Perek Sheni, the second chapter of Derech Hashem, and this whole chelek is about, this whole portion is about Hashgacha, is about Providence, Hashgacha Tabore, the chelek Bet, the second chelek, the second part, and we spoke about there being this idea of this general providence and general non-particular providence is that God saw that the world, in order to fulfill its purpose, so there was the need for each of these species and each of these things that exist, and therefore there will be this divine providence to make sure that that species exists. But as I walk into shul, if I'm going to step on an ant along the way, there is not a shkacha pratis as to who shall live and who shall be crushed, which ant will continue living an ant's life, and which one will no longer because he was crushed as Ciner walked to shul. There is not that hashkacha pratis, that individualized providence, supervision that takes place. However, when it comes to mankind, as we started to discuss yesterday, or not let's say last week, by mankind is going to be different. So let's start now, Perek Sheni, the second chapter. Bihine, behold, kvar hektamnu, we already stated earlier, heyo tachlit briat hamin anushi, the whole purpose of the creation of the human species of humankind, and therefore, and along with that, the whole purpose of there being a creation of the world as we know it, was l'sheyizke v'yagia l'tov ha'amiti, was to create beings who will merit the ultimate good. And what is that? Shehu hahit dabkut bo yibrach, that is that connection to God, that clinging, devek in modern Hebrew is glue, the hit dabkut, that cleaving to, that coming together that one can have with God. Yitbarach, with God may be blessed, lo olam haba. And that takes place in the world to come. V'nimsa, and therefore the result is shesof kol gilgulav, that the ultimate conclusion of that long winding road that we call life, Hinehu, is that menucha, that rest, that tranquility, that state of incredible bliss that comes l'olam haba, in the world to come. Amnam, however, as we discussed, Gazra Chachma Elyona, God's wisdom decreed, the divine wisdom decreed, Hayot Ra'oi v'naot sheyikdam lazeh matzavav olam hazeh, that a person would first, it's proper, it's fitting, it's necessary for a person will first live in the situations presented by olam hazeh, this world that we are so familiar with, nikshar v'nigbal, where we are tied, and nigbal, and we are bounded by chukot teva ze'olam, the natural laws of this world. We have to eat. We have to get involved in this physical world, as we've discussed previously. Shezeti ha'chana hamitit va'ruya, that will be the proper and the worthy preparation lagia, to reach elatachlit hanirtzeh, reach this ultimate purpose that we discussed, and as he discussed in depth earlier, that we need to make decisions. We are free-willed beings. We have our bechira, free will, and that way, when we choose good, we own it. We become the owners of it, and it transforms us and enables us to have that ultimate connection with God. That's what we say every time we make a bracha, a blessing before a mitzvah. Women, when you light the candles on Shabbat, asher kiddishanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu, that you have sanctified us with the mitzvot and have commanded us. Hi, David. Started a few moments ago. We're on page 94 in the book that you've got. Okay. And therefore, we need to go through all that we endure in this world, all that we're challenged with in this world, hopefully all that we overcome in this world. Ulefia shoresh hazeh, and based on this understanding, sidra kol inyanei olam, all of the aspects of this world were arranged. Liot lahachana ulahazmana, to be one that serves as preparation, hachana, and hazmana, almost like inviting but readying us. Lama shiyia achar kach, for that which will follow afterwards, ba'olam tachliti, in the world that was the purpose for which all of this was created, for which we go through all that we go through. Shehu ha'olam haba, which is the world to come. Ach, however, ha'achana hazot, this preparation, this readying that takes place, the events that take place in this world to prepare, there are two different categories, two different aspects that is being worked upon simultaneously. One of them is individualized. The other one is klali, for the klal, for general, for the world. Ha'ishiyi, the personal, the personalized, the individualized, hu inyan kniyata adam et shlemutav v'ma'asav. That's that each and every one of us, as we go through the obstacle course that is our life, that is what is necessary, available and necessary for us to acquire our shleimut, our own personal perfection, never perfection, but perfecting, we'll call it, our own personal growth and improvement through our actions. So that is one aspect of what's happening here. Each of us have our obstacle course. And when people often say, Rabbi, why does life have to be so difficult? Why does it have to have all these things? So my answer is, my friend, why are there obstacles on an obstacle course? Meaning, if one is looking at life as meant to be minucha, just smooth sailing, a beach in Hawaii, so then it's a good question. If God wanted this world to serve that role, so why do we have the difficulties? But if that's not the role this world is meant to play, and the beach in Hawaii might be good for an occasional break and a recharge, but that's not what life is about, so then life is about self-actualization, growth as a human being, growth as a Jew. That's what life is about. And the only way that one can attain that is through challenges and difficulties that one endures and navigates and hopefully triumphs over. So why are there difficulties in life? Why are there obstacles in an obstacle course? We don't ask that. You'd be much faster running around the course if you wouldn't have the tires and the poles and the rope and the wall. Just let me run around. But that's not the point. The point of the obstacle course is to give us those challenges that we can overcome. And that's the answer why there's difficulty in life. So that is one of the katavim, one of the categories, one of the aspects, which is the ishiyi, the individualized for the person. The haklali, and the general one is huit konein hamina anoshi, bichlalo, lolam haba. It is the readying of mankind as a species, all of mankind, for this olam haba. So there's our own individual growth, and then there is the movement of mankind, the growth of mankind, to bring mankind to this olam haba. Upeirush zeha inyanhu, and to explain further, ki biyot hamen anoshi nivra b'yetzer tov v'yetzer ra. As we know, mankind is created with a Yetzer Tov, an inclination to do good, and a Yetzer Ra, an inclination to do things that are not so good. Uvivchira, and we are given the choice as to what to do or not to do in any given situation. As we mentioned before, that is the whole purpose, because that way, when we do good, we're not robots who are programmed in doing it, but we are choosing to do it. We become the Ba'alim, we own it, we internalize it, and that becomes a part of us. And that's what enables us to be close to God. Hine lo yimana efsharut b'chalakav. Therefore, it is inevitable, or the possibility exists, b'chalakav, that some of mankind liyot mehem tovim, some are going to choose to be good, to do good, umehem ra'im, and some of those will choose to do things that are, we'll say, ill-advised, to make bad choices. Otherwise, there's no free will. There has to be free will. If there's free will, then some are going to choose well and some are going to choose poorly. The Sof HaGilgul, in the end of all of this, Tzarech Sheyeh Sheyutchu Hara'im, those who chose bad will be pushed aside, excluded. V'yikubtsu atovim, and those who chose good will be gathered, so to speak. V'yasa mehem klal echad, they'll become this one group, this one community, if you will. Shelaklal lahu yutar ha'olam haba v'tov ha'amiti ha'musag bo. And for that community of the good, of the do-gooders, of the good doers, there is destined this olam haba, this world to come, with this tov ha'amiti, with the true good, hamusag bo, that can be and is attained over there. V'ulam, this is paragraph 3 if you're following in Sefaria or wherever you're following actually. V'ulam, chok ha'bechira, that very same idea, principle of the bechira, the free will that we spoke about, shemachriach efsharut, which forces there the possibility, shizachana, that we mentioned, bechelke hamin anashi, amongst different segments of humankind, liot tovim o ra'im, that they could either be good or be bad, v'chein liot kitzatam, so therefore mankind could do great, or mankind can sink to the lowest level, or liot kitzatam tovim ukitzatam ra'im. Rather, what happens is some elevate and some descend. V'hu atzmo machriach, that very same necessary possibility that allows for some to choose well and some to not choose well, to choose poorly. Hu atzmo machriach efshar gam kein b'masei kol ish meishei hamin. That forces the same possibility, and not just possibility, but probability, or actually eventuality, amongst every single human being. When it comes to our actions, she'olam efshar shu kulam tovim, it's possible a person could be kulo tov, all good, oh kulam ra'im, or all of our actions can be horrific, ve'efshar, and as each and every one of us, I believe, can attest, shiksatam tovim, uksatam ra'im. Sometimes we do the right thing, sometimes we do the wrong thing, right? So we ourselves are this mixture. V'zemi mashima cave, kibbutz hashleim shezacharnu. Oh, but that's a problem, because we spoke about the klali, the generalized, which was to have this community of the good, but you don't really have anyone. We even say about Moshe, even Moshe Rabbeinu made mistakes. Even Avram Avinu, Ramban says, made mistakes. Everyone, the pasuk says, Ein Adam Tzaddik Ba'aretz, and I don't know if I might be not quoting exactly correctly, right? Who will live alo yechata. There's no tzaddik on the face of the land that doesn't at times sin. So now we have a problem. This will be a cave. This will hold back. This will prevent that kibbutz hashleimim, that community of those who have elevated, who have perfected themselves that we mentioned. Every person you're going to find in that person, atzmo, himself or herself, inyanim tovim, inyanim ra'im, certain good and certain poor decisions, certain bad. Ulashgiach al ketzatam, and for God to take into account some of them and to ignore others. Even if that which God will take into account is the majority. So for God to take into account some actions and not others, even if what he's taking into account is the majority, that is not proper justice. To ignore some, even if it's the minority of one's actions, is not perfect justice. Kishurat hadin, if we're going with what is just, what is proper, what is earned, what is emet, what is truth, no tenet that forces us to say, shekol amasim yugmalu, that everything must be accounted for. Everything must be considered, taken into account. Hein gedolim, hein katanim, whether it's big actions, major ramifications, or whether it is small. Hein harbe, hein ma'at, whether they are many or whether they are few. Everything needs to go into the din, into this judgment. Nothing can just be ignored, dismissed. And therefore we're left with the problem. So how do we have this community of shleimim, this ultimate community of shleimim in the world to come, if everyone is a mixture of tov and ra? Everyone, we've each used our free will to make good decisions and to make bad decisions, poor decisions. A story that I love to tell is a story of the Vilna Gaon's wife and a friend who had dedicated their life or decades of their life to collecting funds for families in need. And they made a pact between them. And I don't know if I can make such a pact. I can make such a pact. I don't know if it would go into effect. That whoever would pass from this world first would let the other one know what awaits them in the world to come for all of their efforts. That was the pact that was made. And I don't know the story. I don't know who died first. Whatever it was came to the other one in a dream and said as follows. Do you remember when we went to the house of that very wealthy person? And we went and we walked up the long driveway and we knocked on the door. There was no answer. So we realized there was no one home. And we are walking down the long driveway. And we turn onto the street and we're about to be out of sight, where we both saw his chariot arriving. And we both said, there he is. But I raised my hand and I said, there he is. And you didn't raise your hand. You just said, there he is. And because of that extra effort and excitement that I put into that mitzvah of trying to raise funds for needy families, our actions were written in a completely different book. It was considered to be a whole different realm between one and the other. And that's what he's saying over here. The mishpat tzedek, the true judgment, shurat hadin, if we're going with what is proper, what is emet, what is truth, kol hamas, every action needs to be considered, accounted for. Hein gedolim, whether it's a major action, major mitzvah, major avera, hein katanim, or whether it is a small, not what seemingly insignificant thing, like raising one hand and saying, there he is. Hein harbe, whether it's many actions, hein ma'at, whether it is few. Al kain, therefore, gazra chachmel yonah, therefore this divine wisdom decreed lechalek hagamul, that the time of the recompense will be divided. Bein l'sechar, bein la'onesh, whether it is in regard to the sachar, the reward, or the onesh, or the repercussion, literally the punishment. B'shnei zmanim u'b'shnei mekomot. It'll be divided into 2 time periods and 2 places. V'hainu, which is shehinei klal ha'ma'asim yitchalek, a person's general tally of one's deeds, of one's life, of what one accomplished, of where one pointed themselves, what one prioritized. The general life of a person is divided l'rov u'l'miut. What is the majority? What is the minority? Is it mostly good or mostly not good? V'yudun harov levado, and that majority will be judged and considered and accounted for b'makom uzman haro'i lo, in the time and place that is fitting for it. V'amiut levado, and the minority of one's actions also must be considered and accounted for b'makom uzman haro'i lo, in the time and place that is fitting for it. And now we'll explain a little bit further. Ken, good to have you on board. Hope you're feeling all right. I'm just going to post on the chat, Ken, where you can find us on Safaria, unless you're there already. I just posted on the chat.
I'm just listening right now.
I'm sorry?
Just listening right now.
Okay, fair enough.
I don't have enough intelligence to read and listen at the same time.
Okay, I think you do, but that's up to you. Ru'ulam. Now, Hagmul ha'amiti, the true compensation, the true reward, v'ikaro, the main reward for a person is ba'olam haba, in the world to come. Now, let's keep in mind that there are actually 3 stages. There is this world, there's the olam ha-nishamot, the world of the souls, and then there is the ultimate resuscitation, where body and soul once again are united, and that is that ultimate gemul. So that would be ba'olam haba, the world to come, as we have mentioned. V'yeh hasachar, what is the reward there? Hisha'er ha'adam zocheh, a person who merits, will be nitzchi, eternally, lehit dabkut bo yitbarach lanetzach, to have that connection with God, that ultimate tov, that out of this world bliss of that connection to God. Va'onesh, and the flip side is hayot nidche, to be pushed away, cast aside, me'atov amiti, from that ultimate good, va'oved, and to be lost. Va'amnam, hadin le'inyan zeh, lo ye'el al pi rov ma'aseh. A person's din, judgment on this, will be based upon majority of their actions. Was this person essentially a good person or a bad person? Right? There were a couple of interesting articles. There was a rabbi from LA who wrote an article, and Dennis Prager responded, right, that is mankind good? At our core, is mankind good? Or is humankind good, or is humankind bad? Right? And the answer is humankind has the capacity to do incredible good and the capacity to do incredible bad. And actually, that's a pasuk we have that we say that we will rule over, right? That we will rule over the animal kingdom, but the rule could either be read as, it could be lirdot, to rule over, or yered, or we could sink lower than, right? Animals don't kill needlessly. Human beings do. Animals don't build hospitals and create charity organizations. Human beings do. We have a capacity to rise up and be greater than angels, and we have the capacity to descend to the lowest depths and be worse than animals. That's who we are. So this ultimate din is al pi rov hamaseh, based on the majority of one's actions. But as we said before, we cannot just ignore the minority actions, the minority bad actions of those who are who are majority good, or that minority good actions for those who are majority bad. Ach lemasim tovim, but the good deeds, asher l'rasha, done by the bad person, ulemasim haraim, and the bad deeds, asher l'tzadik, done by the righteous person, al tzad hamiut, those minority actions of a person, yimatzei ha'olam hazeh, then one way that God will deal with it is that this world, b'hatzlachotav, with its successes, vitzarotav, and its difficulties and its anguish, shebo yikabel harasha, so through that, the rasha, the bad person, will receive gemul, the payment, the reward for miyat hazchut, for that minority of merits, asher lo, that he has. He'll receive that reward, b'hatzlachotav, with a success in this world. V'hatzadik, and a righteous person, onesh avonotav, he will receive punishment for the sins, b'yisurin shabo, from the difficulties of life, ba'ofen sheyushlam ha'mishpat bakol, in the manner that everything, justice, just recompense for every action is going to be given. And and that will leave. Now again, so again, this is one way that one way that Hashem can be dealing. So if you see someone who's having this, you think about some of these very, very powerful, very wealthy people who were horrific people, who had, but their life here until their end, they had every enjoyment of life that life on this earth could possibly offer. And they were horrific people. And you wonder, why did these guys have such a wonderful life? Right? Not just guys, some gals also. Right? Why do they have, if they're such horrific people, why do they have such a wonderful life? And this is one way that Hashem deals with the world, that there were some good actions that were done, and for that they received their payment, leaving them with nothing but their majority in the world to come. And you have some very, very righteous people who suffer and suffer and suffer and suffer. And that takes care of their minority bad actions. And that way, when they move on to the next stage, there's nothing left to be accounted for besides all the good that they have done. Now, there also is another midah that we understand, right? It says in the Shema, if you keep the mitzvot, the rains will come in its time, and you'll be harvesting. And the commentators ask, we have a general rule of schar mitzvot b'hai alma leka, Aramaic for the reward for mitzvot we don't receive in this world. So what does it mean then that if it rains, you'll have all the if you keep the mitzvot, the rains will come in the time, you'll have all the produce. That means that if a person's doing good, then they'll be given a situation which will enable them to do even more good. And if a person is doing badly, so then the person can get shook up through events in life to try to get the person to redirect. So what he's saying here is not the only way God deals with this world. Whereas I can't look at a person who's living a great life and say, Russia, evil person, and that's why things are good for you. God's giving you payment for all, right? And you can't look at a person who's suffering and say that person, we don't know. But this is one of the hanhagot. This is one way that God deals with the world, and this is a way that there is this perfect tzedek, justice, that everything is compensated for. Dahainu, meaning shisharu tzadikim levadam b'li ta'arovot ra'im beinehem, the tzaddik will remain pure without any mixture of any ra, because any ra that they had, any bad choice that they made has been accounted for with difficulties that they endured in this world. And now, without anything holding them back, they are set for that reward that is destined for them. Varishaim, and very tragically, and these are extreme cases, harishaim yidachu, they'll be pushed aside. V'yovdu, they're lost. B'li she'yishe'er lehem tana klal, without any claim that they can make. Oh, but I did certain things. But I did do this good thing. I did do that good thing. Yes, that is true. But you received the reward for that. The amnam. I don't want to stop at this point. The next paragraph or two paragraphs are very important. The amnam. Dalid number 4. Od gazar od chasto yibarach. God's kindness, mercy, decreed laharbot hatzlacha livnei adam, to increase the chances of success for mankind. Shimatzei od min seiruf acher. There is another form of cleansing, of purification. Lemishi tachem bo atseru, for someone that this is possible for them. Tahaina lemisha gav bo hara tibar gadol, a person who the bad that they've done was pretty serious. But not so bad that the person should have no future, no world to come. Not to the point that we mentioned in the previous paragraph, that everything will be compensated in this world, leaving them nothing, no existence in the world to come. And what is that? V'hu chlal anashim shayoter rashum behem hu hadin begehinom. That is the idea of Gehenna, right? Colloquially known as hell, heaven and hell. V'akavanabo, this cleansing, this purification that one goes through, this purgatory that one goes through, hu lahanish achotei kefi chata'av, that is, that the person will receive the results of their misdeeds, of their sins, but often shacharei ansho, in the manner that once that is completed, lo yeh od chov alav, a person will no longer have that liability, that chov, that stain of hamasa hara shasa, of the bad deeds that a person had done. And therefore such a person will be able to afterwards l'kabel hagmul amiti, to receive that true recompense, reward, kafi shar ma'asav hatovim, for the good actions that the person had done. Therefore those who are truly lost, without any possibility, without any world to come, those who are lost, yeh mizar lo chabir. It'll be very, very small and insignificant. Kine lo yeh el otam shegavar behem hara. It'll be those people that evil was so overwhelming, shiur kol kach gadol, to such a great degree, that there's no way that we could find, even with God's mercy, there's no saving grace. There's no way we could find for them to be nisharim, remaining bigmul amiti uvahana, with that reward and that eternal bliss, pleasure of connecting to God. So those who have no way of rescuing them are small and insignificant. V'nei nimsa din, the result is that din is mitchalek, is divided l'shlosha chalakim, to three different stages. Ikaro l'olam she'achar tchiyah. The main stage, the olam haba, the world to come, is the world after the tchiyah, after that's the future world, after the resurrection. But those actions which can be accounted for prior to that, there are those that it will take place in olam hazeh, in the world that we are each now living in. And there are those that will be in olam hanishamot, in the world of the nishamot, which is that in-between stage, where the body is decomposing, the soul is readying itself for its re-entry, and all that we had back in Chelek Aleph, in the first Chelek. And this, of course, is going to determine then how the hashgacha, how the divine providence is going to be working, but we will see that as we continue on next week, my friends. Okay, yashar koach, everybody. Those who are a little under the weather, hope everyone feels better, stronger. And let me wish everybody Shabbat. There
Thank
go,
you,
David.
Rabbi. Thank you. Rosh Chodesh
Have a
Tov.
good
Rosh Chodesh Tov.
a good week and a good Chodesh and a good month.
Rosh
Yes.
Chodesh Tov.
Tonight and tomorrow starts the month of Adar. But
There.
Purim will be for another 6 weeks. We have the 2 Adars
We'll
this
take 'em.
year. And our lunch and learn on Thursday is Adar 1, Adar 2, when it comes to Purim, when it comes to Bar Bat Mitzvah, when it comes to Yortzeit. Is it this, that, or the Adar? Was my very poor pun. Sorry. Okay,
That's
everybody.
this Thursday, Rabbi? This Thursday?
Thursday, yes.
Okay.
At 12:30. At 12:30. We're moving from 1 o'clock back to 12:30 since Mincha is no longer at 12:35.
Because I
Mincha
have
is
a
at 5
Yom
p.m.
Yadar, so I better make that one. Okay, thank you.
All right, everybody.
Thank you.
Be well. David, good to see you.
Rabbi.
Ali, good to
Thank
see
you,
you.
Rabbi.
Oh, I'll probably
See
see
you
you
guys
tomorrow
later.
morning. Okay.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you, Rabbi.
You're very welcome, David.